1 John 3:16. We know love by this, that he laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for the brethren. Some background on this verse. In a way, the subject of this blog, 1 John 3:16, is a complement to John 3:16, which was covered in a separate blog. John 3:16 summarizes how to be saved. 1 John 3:16 summarizes that once you are saved, you should be focusing on helping others. As mentioned in the blog on John 3:16, John lived in the 90s AD. As such, he was living mostly with second generation and third generation Christians. And, as is not as rare in later generations, some key knowledge and wisdom of the first generation starts to become lost. While they would still have had other writings that were later incorporated into the New Testament, such as Paul's epistles, they did not have the same personal experiences as those seeing Jesus in person and that tight community of the early church. They also would have had more skeptics trying to convince them that those stories of Jesus and his apostles were not accurate. These letters helped clarify and refresh what was true because John was one of the 12 apostles and had a first-hand account of who was Jesus and what he had done. So what did this letter mean to the original audience? The letter was a clear reminder of the priority of loving and supporting each other and watching out for false teachers. The letter clearly reminds them to stand on Jesus as God's Son, sent with a purpose, and the truths he brought, and also to have a proper understanding of Jesus' message should lead us to loving others as much as we do ourselves. So for us today, the message is basically the same as it was for the original audience. Jesus summarized all of God's teachings into two basic life principles, which are often called the two greatest commandments. The first commandment is to seek God above all else because, one, God is offering unconditional love based on a relationship with you, and two, God is the only source of absolute truth and wisdom and calls us to understand and trust it. The second greatest commandment is to love others as yourself, and that goes beyond just family and friends. When we do, we learn that it truly is better to give than to receive. So, summary thought. John 3:16 calls us to the first life principle. 1 John 3:16 is a call to respond in action to the second life principle. When we understand, trust, and live out these two principles, we find peace and purpose that only God can provide. So, subscribe or follow us on one of our social media sites to be notified when more of these videos come out. Links to our social media sites can be found on the About Follow page on our website or searching for the ID, What's God Doing, in the social media sites. Thank you for listening.